Virtual reality, or VR, where a special headset lets you experience all kinds of things as though you were really there, was meant to be the next big thing in technology, but it just hasn't really taken off. VR may be about to break through into the mainstream, though, in amusement arcades and shopping centres. Simon Hoban reports.
Whoa, now we're speeding up pretty quickly. Whoa! In an office somewhere in Salford, I'm sounding a bit like Jeremy Clarkson. That is pretty impressive. It's because I'm on a roller coaster ride viewed through a virtual reality headset in an experience designed by the tech startup Immotion. Now we're moving left and this is moving pretty quickly. We're going right. It's basically like being in a racetrack.
My name is Peter Caddock. I am Director of VR at Immotion. These are called VR cinema pods. They're effectively two egg-shaped seats which sit on a hydraulic platform which is powered by 3 hydraulic rams. There are VR headsets on them and there are audio speakers in your left and right ear at the side of where you sit.
Oh yeah, so as I go up a hill in virtual reality, the hydraulics move to reflect that. Immotion specialise in location-based virtual reality. Soon these hydraulic seats and headsets will move into the Arndale shopping centre in Manchester, adding to the firm's other sites in Bristol and Cardiff. Their mantra is that the best virtual reality experiences will be out of the home, something that hasn't gone unnoticed by the owners of some of the UK's biggest shopping centres. Karen Harris heads up the digital arm of Into, who owns 17 of them.
Entertainment is absolutely giving people a reason to go out, and virtual reality is really, centre stage at the moment. There's lots more dining and leisure in shopping centres than there was previously, where obviously predominantly it was retail. People are now looking for a day out. So when they come to a shopping centre, not only do they want to be able to shop, but they want to have dinner, lunch, they want to go to the cinema, and any kind of immersive experience in a physical setting is really the way of the future.
Well, if the idea of having to leave the house to get the best gaming experience seems ridiculous, you're not old enough to remember these. The amusement arcades of the 1980s, coin-operated cathedrals that numbered over 1,000 in their heyday, but are now down to about half that. What did for them was the rise of the new generation of games console like the Sony PlayStation in the 90s. But VR has hit the reset button on that cycle, and the home market is again playing catch-up. Headsets like HTC's Vive and Facebook-owned Oculus Rift are getting better, but are still upwards of a few £100s. Jeremy White from the tech magazine Wired explains the problem.
These are high-end systems. First of all, they require a significant amount of space for you to sort of walk around in if you want to use them properly. Secondly, they require a high-end PC in which to operate them. So it's not for everybody. And this is the problem that these manufacturers have been having with this sort of technology, is that you can't just go and buy the headset. You've got to be reasonably technically savvy, and you've got to get a really good high-end PC because these are intensive things.
And even if you can afford all that, there's still the problem of tripping over the dog as you try to save the universe. It's hard to see how developers of home VR sets will get around these built-in issues, and bosses at Sony recently admitted the market has fallen short of expectations. Peter Caddock from Immotion again.
There are some fantastic VR experiences on the Vive and the Oculus, but it won't have motion. In some respects, motion puts some emotion into what you're actually seeing and what you're experiencing. If you imagine watching Star Wars, but then being in Star Wars, they're two different things. Watching it's fantastic. Being in it is mega.
Mega and now possible. In the Stratford Westfield shopping centre in London, I'm about to realise a childhood dream by becoming a member of the Rebel Alliance and taking on Darth Vader. This is The Void, founded by a former stage magician and getting the closest to how we might have dreamed as children that virtual reality would turn out. Okay, now as I walk through, I'm going through a door and I'm physically moving through the stage. And now I'm about to sit down and it looks like there's a seat in front of me. And when I sit down, there actually is. Here you're not tethered by wires, but move around a virtual stage set that exactly reflects what you see in your headset. Reach forward and touch something on screen, a lever or a switch, or pick up a gun. There it is physically in your hand. And below us is molten lava. We're in a rocky environment. It's like basically travelling across a volcano. I can feel heat now as well. We've been rumbled, I think.
Get ready to fight.
Oh, I just got hit and I felt vibration in my stomach.
Oh.
And you find yourself recoiling. I'm moving back as the guys get nearer. And now there's mist and gas escaping on the screen in front of me, and I can actually feel that and smell that. At about £30 for half an hour, this cutting-edge tech isn't cheap, or you could argue comes at the price of a good steak at the food court outside. Mark Miller is the executive creative director who's worked in Hollywood on films like Minority Report and Planet of the Apes. He thinks it's worth it.
The ability to go with your family or your friends and not just seeing a virtual avatar, but being able to actually high-five them and interact with them while you're interacting with the spaces around you, that's what puts it on a whole different level. It puts you in places, it allows you to experience an empathy that other kinds of storytelling really don't.
And now we're battling with stormtroopers opposite, and I can see the fire coming towards me. So far, so frenetic. But for VR to finally break through, developers know they've got to do more than just allow children, or adult-sized children, to live out their sci-fi fantasies. Peter Caddock at Immotion says they're already thinking about that.
We could do a gondola ride in Venice. We could do an undersea swim. You could go and see some coral or a turtle or some sharks or a stingray. And what that allows people to do is go somewhere and experience something that possibly they would never get the opportunity to do.
In virtual reality. So, for example, the gondola ride, if you haven't been to Venice, you could get as close as possible with the VR without going to one of those horrendous hotels in Las Vegas.
Absolutely right.
There is, however, one issue that even the best tech hasn't yet sorted out. I genuinely feel a little bit queasy, I've got to say. Yeah.
You've got a lighter shade of pale.
Yeah. What's happened there?
I think different people react differently to motion sickness. We have a set of people who go into the Bristol arcade and actually challenge each other to go on the most queasy-making ride.
Okay.
You know, we've had bachelor parties come in and go, right, what's the challenge?
Right. People come on stag days to this. I wouldn't want to do that after a few ales.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
be
I
honest with
wouldn't
you.
either.
I need to get back on terra firma.
Our reporter Simon Hoban. Now, this time last week on You and Your